Ignition sequence starts. 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Liftoff. We have a liftoff.
Hey everybody, this is the Digital Asset Investor, and this coffee is just right this morning. I can tell you that I'm on cup number 2, and some mornings you feel like you need it more than others. I was going to show you briefly the market this morning. I saw that Bitcoin, it went over 11,000 for a second time this morning, which I think is significant. These psychological numbers, from what I've seen in the past, these are the numbers that cause the traditional media to really pick up on it, and I'm going to show you some of that here in a second. But we've had some good movement over the last week or so on XRP, on really just about everything. But XRP's done its thing too, pretty good. I mean, nothing crazy yet. If you were in the 2017-18 bull run, you will know that when it really goes, it goes. So now I want to show you something else interesting that came across this morning. This is from this person, Della Vega 86. Now, I'm just showing you the screenshot that they've got here, but they're showing in this is a USAA bank. I'm not sure if that's a bank or if that's a credit union. I'm not sure, but anyway, I think it's like a bank. But they're showing that they can integrate a Coinbase Bitcoin wallet with their account, which I'm not exactly sure what that is I'm looking at, but it was interesting enough to at least show you. The person that saw it in their bank account was pretty blown away. Could not believe their freaking eyes. So, and then this morning I saw this tweet. Goldman. Now, when Goldman Sachs says something, that means they already know something. Real concerns around the longevity of the U.S. dollar as a reserve currency have started to emerge. So if they're saying that tells me that this is already in motion. They're not going to come out and say something like this if they don't already know that something's afoot. Now, CNBC, the mainstream financial media, has finally decided that they wanted to pick up on what's going on in crypto. Now, this says that this was today being yesterday, but she was interviewed. This is Catherine Coley from Binance.us, who used to work for Ripple. I swear she was interviewed by the same guy a few months back, and maybe she was interviewed. Well, it says here Bitcoin passes 10K. I just didn't see a date on this, so I guess it did happen yesterday. Watch this.
I'm looking at 4 of the leading crypto platforms: Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin, and Ripple, and the distribution of returns is extremely wide. Why is that?
Well, you see the use case for each of those assets to be different and aligned to areas of the industry that we really have to focus on. We can't necessarily paint with a broad stroke why Bitcoin would be rallying and why XRP would be rallying in the same case. So you're going to see a divergence between certain coins, but also an overall all tides rise effort when we see an activity towards Bitcoin and the rest of the digital asset market.
Give me an example. You said that one of the reasons why there is a dispersion of returns is that they have different use cases. Compare one against the other in light of those different returns.
Sure. You've got a store of value component with Bitcoin where people are seeing this as almost a flight to safety or a flight to sovereignty for their sake. So when geopolitical situations become concerning, you're going to want to be able to hold your own assets and access those at any time 24/7. That's going to be a different case and scenario for something like XRP, which is really going to be useful for cross-border transactions.
They're still calling it Ripple on here, and here they say Bitcoin Coinbase. I mean, these guys are so clueless. No wonder we get more views than the CNBC crypto show, which, by the way, where did that guy disappear to?
Instantaneous settlements and moving funds across borders.
XRP is Ripple, right?
Yes, XRP is actually the digital asset. Ripple is a company.
Oh. They are just figuring all this out, folks, and it's unbelievable. Now, this is the Bitcoin guy on CNBC Fast Money, and that's the show that comes on at 5 Eastern time, I believe, in the afternoon. He's the Bitcoin guy, and he predicts Bitcoin 50,000 this year in this clip, I think. Well, if the clip will play, let's see. Wait a minute here, let's see. Let me do a refresh and see if that can happen. I don't know if the internet just did a hiccup. Hold on. Sorry, we had a little internet hiccup there. Here we go.
Gold or silver or Bitcoin?
Well, I mean, for me, it's going to be Bitcoin. You might say, well, BK, you're biased because you run a crypto fund, but that's not it. I also trade macro, which means I have a whole bunch of different things that I can invest in: currency, stocks, bonds, precious metals. And when I look at precious metals versus Bitcoin, Bitcoin has a better fundamentals. And when fundamentals, I'm talking about the stock to flow ratio. It's better than gold at this point because we had the halvening. And when I look at the Bitcoin cycles, the bull markets tend to cluster around the halvenings. And so we're tracking right along like the 2016 halvening cycle. And that would imply that sometime in Q2 2021, you're looking at a Bitcoin price of 50,000. So that's kind of the long-term target. And then in the shorter term, 10,500 was a really big number. We're breaking out of a 2-year range. It would not surprise me. This is just pure trading 101. Once you break out of a range, goes to prior highs, that's 20,000. To me, I think, that's 3 to 6 months down the road. So Bitcoin looks like it go 2 to 5 times higher. Whereas gold, is gold going to go to 4,000? Is it going to go to 10,000?
Can we back up for just a second? You're saying 20,000 in 3 to 6 months and 50,000 but in 2021. And we've heard these sorts of sky high forecasts in the past, 50,000, 100,000, whatever. It's like, and they never came to fruition. Why this time? I mean, people are skeptical.
I'm not sure that they haven't come to people may be skeptical, but let's remember in March, Bitcoin was $3,500. So it's already tripled. All right. So, and a lot of those projections were, okay, this is going to be 3-4 years out. A lot of people at $1,000 and $2,000 in Bitcoin in 2017 didn't think it could go to 20,000. What we know about Bitcoin is that it's extremely volatile. It's highly speculative. And when it goes on these speculative runs, it goes a lot further than people expect. So, I don't think saying 20,000 is that outrageous when it's already been there. You might question me on the 50,000, but that's a year from now.
Quick, would you rather, Guy Adami, gold or miners?
Gold. And I'll say it again. I've said it. I'll say it again. You're going to wake up one morning, gold's going to be up $200. People will be like, well, what happened? And it's going to happen again the next day. And by the way, you're seeing it in silver right now to a certain degree. And the miners have been ridiculous. We've talked about Newmont and Pan American Silver now for months. Those are just getting started despite the ridiculous move they've had.
All right. Now, I found an interesting clip that was I think it was just uploaded yesterday of the R3 CTO. But before I show you these clips with the R3 CTO, I think it's important to remind you of who the CTO is. He's a guy that worked at IBM for 15 years before. Very smart guy. But I wanted to show you, this is from Darren Moore Jr. Give him a subscribe. This is a pretty classic clip from the R3 CTO where he is talking about how he can't talk about Ripple. Watch this.
You still working with Ripple at all as a company? I know that there was some extracurricular activity that was working its way through the courts, but and it's since been resolved. But I'm curious if there's ongoing discussions, since one of their primary focus is on the interbank settlement component that you're also touching.
So frankly, Ripple's probably the only topic I can't talk about. I just don't talk about it. I can't talk about it. I can't talk about it.
You're darn right you can't talk about it. Now here, the other thing you need to understand is that Ripple and R3 used to be in a lawsuit, which they settled. The lawsuit was over an option that Ripple had given R3 the right to buy 5 billion XRP. Then once they finally settled, it was a confidentiality agreement, so they can't talk about it. But the point is if they had a lawsuit over having an option for 5 billion XRP, you better believe that R3 has a dog in the fight. R3 has an incentive, is the whole point of this. R3 has an incentive for XRP to be in the game. And that is what I wanted you to know before I show you this clip. This is the R3 CTO. There's a couple of good clips here. This is the first one.
Richard, my question is, what do you think? When are we going to see the firework? And I don't mean the cricket match firework, the Labor Day firework.
It's a fair question. And I guess there's a lot packed into that question, and it's a good one to start with. So I guess at first I should say that contrary to perhaps public perception, there actually are several large-scale production implementations live as we speak. Some on the platform that I helped design and that R3 maintains, Corda, but on other platforms as well, Hyperledger Fabric and other ones. If I look at the projects I'm familiar with, we can look down in Italy. There is a large project there called Spunter, which is deployed between not all yet, but most of the banks in Italy to automate the checking and reconciliation of balances between all the branches and all the institutions. It's a live production scale implementation of Corda. We have startups using it. There's gold being traded on the Corda blockchain in North America. And then admittedly at a smaller scale, things like HQLAX for balance sheet optimization and collateral management and things like the Marco Polo network and for trade finance. But I think your question is fair. There are some bright large success stories. But there are also lots more projects that are in the process of going live or are not there yet. I think there's a few things to say, and I'd be interested to see whether you agree, whether you disagree with me. One thing you can say is, and you began with Bitcoin. I think people forget the Bitcoin design, the original email about Bitcoin. I think that was circulated on a mailing list in 2008, and the Bitcoin network went live in 2009. And it's now 2020, so 11 or 12 years later, depending on how you measure it. And it was only this week that the Office of the Comptroller of the Currency in the United States gave banks permission to engage with it and other cryptocurrencies and from a custody perspective. So that's 12 years. The enterprise blockchain space has only really been going for 4 or 5. So although it seems a long time, it's actually half the time of some of the other the public block the permissionless blockchains. But I know that may sound like an excuse. So that's not really my argument, but it is a comparison. There's also then maybe my final point, and I'd love to see what you think about it, which is enterprise blockchain it involves entire markets, entire industries working together. It's not something that one firm can deploy and install. It's something that all participants in a market do. And that requires a lot of collaboration. It requires a lot of coordination. But of course, the prize when you get it right, it's so much bigger because you're transforming a whole market. So of course, I'm optimistic and urgent. I always want things to go faster, but I'm also pretty happy with where we are.
Perfectly agree on that.
Okay, that's the first clip. I wanted to show you this. The next clip is really good, and he talks about what seems to be one of the major topics right now, and that is interoperability. That is somewhere right in here. Listen to this.
In the 2000s that we should use to influence and inspire us now. So that was the point I was trying to make in the blog post.
Interesting. We have an interesting question coming up. I was just waiting for it. It is about, what are your views on, this problem around interoperability? Is stopping this, because obviously any new technology, so nobody's sure how long it is going to go. Nobody wants to get stuck with that. If things change tomorrow, they don't want their production data locked in there. So interoperability is obviously going to be one of the challenges that we have to solve for this technology to go mainstream. What do you think about it? How do we solve this problem?
It's a tough one because interoperability has, well, I guess it's a complicated word and it's a complicated subject because there are so many different facets to it. There's things like, okay, well, imagine I've got a Corda network over here. Can it interoperate with a Fabric network here and an Ethereum network here? And sometimes people's
Let's say anything but Ripple or XRP
in faulty thinking. Because, of course, if you think about networks, computer networks, I could have had like a Novell network here and a Microsoft network here. And then the internet was this interoperability protocol that linked them all together. So I think lots of people, I think they made a mistake a few years ago and they thought there must be an internet protocol for interoperability, something that allows us to link these different blockchains as if they were all just one big network. And you can do that on one level. It's just data moving around. I can communicate with a Fabric node. I can send data to an Ethereum node. But the bar for blockchains is higher. The bar for blockchains is how can we be sure we are in perfect synchronization? And one of the ways we do that is by independently executing common code and checking we get the same answer. And one end of it is a Java contract in Corda, and the other end of it is a Solidity contract in Ethereum. The question doesn't even make sense. How could you execute both and get the same answer except through a lot of testing? So the long story short is, I think the interoperability question is multifaceted. Like I say, can you invoke services on other blockchains? That's a solved problem. We have things like Corda Settler, Fabric has things you can do that. Can you send data to another network and have it authenticated and digitally signed so you know who it came from and what it means? Yes. But there's one thing that I think people sometimes want, which is I want to have a Fabric node here, an Ethereum node here, and they can just talk to each other as if they're all on the same network. And I think, and I know this is controversial and not everybody agrees with me, but I think that's actually probably not the right answer, because the only way I can see of doing that is by making all the platforms the same. But the reason there are different platforms is because they solve different problems and have different pros and cons. So to get that perfect interoperability, we're actually asking for a single protocol, which therefore means we can't specialize for different use cases. But I could be wrong. It's an empirical question. We'll see where it goes. But we are investing heavily in interoperability, at R3 to make sure different Corda networks can talk to each other, but also that we can talk to other blockchains and to non-blockchains. Interoperability with, obviously, you're an NPCI. Interoperability with existing payment rails is like absolutely critical, for example.
Do you mean like this right here? This is Interledger Protocol, Interledger Stack. You've got Corda, MasterCard, Visa, Digital Asset, Hyperledger. Let's look at this. This is my dad's favorite, the official father of the Digital Asset Investor channel. This is our timeline. We've shown you this so many times. There's R3 Corda right there. R3 is right there. Hyperledger. And then, of course, the favorite slide, the last slide, Interledger Protocol, R3 is right here, R3 Corda. And then there's this clip that you might find interesting from Stephen Bull from the DApp. Give him a follow, at DApp, SANH. Anthony Lewis from R3 explaining how Corda Settler through ILP settles payments on XRP Ledger. All right, listen to this.
These assets and moving them across the chain. So that's one good example that's been going on with the central banks. Another one is actually with my good friend from Ripple. So we built an interoperability tool called the Corda Settler. It allows people to do business on Corda, create financial obligations on Corda. So on Corda, there is a record that says I owe you $200. And then reach out to other networks and settle on other networks. So the one that we built, it's an open source piece of code. It's a pattern that people can just download and tweak. But it connected to Ripple's testnet and it moved XRPs from one account to another one. And then based on when the XRP kind of settled, landed in the beneficiary's account, it came back to Corda and said that obligation is now being paid. So there's different types of interoperability depending on what you're trying to achieve. But a couple of examples there.
I think just to at a very macro level, I think if anyone believes that there will be one blockchain that will rule the world or one payment center that will rule the world, I think he or she is living in a fool's paradise. I think the need of the hour is that going forward there will be different blockchains, different payment networks, and it's really the how you connect those networks, how you connect those ledgers, those blockchains, using an interoperable protocol, that really would be the future 5 years from now.
So there you go. As I told you last week, I want to make sure that I'm with all the markets going up and all the new people coming in. I want to make sure that you understand how dangerous this world is in the crypto space. We all know that Twitter got hacked last week. Coinbase said it halted more than $280,000 in Bitcoin transactions during the Twitter hack, but this is still a little bit of the wild, wild west until the way I see it is until like what the OCC did last week, until they have this to the point where you can all walk in your bank and do just like you've done with dollars or anything else and have it in your bank account and not worry about it anymore. We're still in that area where it's like we all feel vulnerable. So I'm trying to focus on telling people about things that you should do in order to be secure in what you're doing. And one of those things I talked about last week, I'll bring it back up, is having a private virtual network on your computer. I do this as well. I didn't even know what this was until someone made me aware. If you have a virtual private network, basically you can surf the internet anonymously and people can't track you or whatever. And that's the extent of my knowledge, but it was good enough for me and I've done it ever since. And it made me feel a lot more secure. This is Pure VPN. They've got a 7-day trial. It's only 99 cents for the 7-day trial. I got this link in the description of every video I do. You should go check it out, and see if it works for you. I'm the digital asset investor. I'm not an investment advisor. This is for entertainment purposes only. Please subscribe, hit the like button, and tell your friends and family about a virtual private network. It is important. I mean, it's a creepy world we live in. Thank you for listening.